Welcome, everybody. We're up and recording. Welcome. This is Wesley Pepper. Welcome to the Lexcia podcast. This is episode 226. And yeah, that's all I really have to say with regards to all of that. No real notices or anything like that. Although with Gallery 360 Africa, I mentioned this in my previous episode, but I'll be putting it on my socials and all that type of stuff. So that's it. So today we welcome back Professor Malcolm Purkey from Wits Theatre. We were talking about Sophiatown, the play, the musical, the stage production. That'll be taking place from the 11th to the 14th of April, and then again from the 5th to the 8th of May. It's a school program, or rather, it's for the schools program. But we're going to be unpacking about all of that. So first and foremost, Professor Malcolm Purkey, good morning. Thank you for taking the time out. How are you?
I'm very well, and thank you very much for hosting me. It's always a pleasure. I hope you're very well.
I'm pretty good. It's a lovely morning. I think I'm a mornings person, the older I'm getting. I like the birds in the trees and the Christmas of the morning, the dew on the grass and this time of the season. I can go on and on, but it's definitely my favorite time of the day. So Professor, let's actually jump into it, man. Sophiatown, you were one of the original creators of the play. My understanding it was first staged in 1986, so it was a while ago. So can you just give us some insight into in helping setting it up and what's Sophiatown about? And then we'll break it down bit by bit after that.
Sure. So we have to go back a bit because at Wits University in the early 70s, I formed a company called Junction Avenue Theatre Company, which by 1976 had created a play called The Fantastical History of a Useless Man. And some of the principles of the company were history from below, taking on the question of apartheid, trying to imagine a future, trying to imagine what we would have to do to destroy apartheid. And all of this was in the theatre work. But there were other kinds of principles. One was we had to be compelling, we had to use humor, we had to make the plays available to broad, diverse public. And so we started making plays about history, and we made a play about the invasion from 1652 to 1976, the uprising. We then made a play about the turn of the century and the use of development of liquor as a social control on the mines. And then we made a play recently staged at the Market Theatre by Arthur Malepa called Marabi. And Marabi was very interesting for us because it was about the destruction of Doornfontein, but it was also about love and music and parents and trying to control daughters and, let's say, strange kind of men young men who roll into town and play the music all night at the parties. And what that did, that play in particular, gave us a certain language that we then used for Sophiatown, for the development of Sophiatown. All our plays are created collectively, and we knew that the next topic was the 50s because we had been making our way through history like that. But we also knew that there were two big issues of the 50s. One was the destruction of Sophiatown, and the other was this, gathering at Freedom Square, where the bones of the new constitution were being created. But we didn't know what story to tell yet. And then one day, I think I was reading the account of Drum Magazine by Jim Bailey. And in it, he talks about two black journalists, Louis Nkosi and Nat Nakazu, who put an advert in the paper, and this is for real, asking for a Jewish girl to come and live with them in Sophiatown. And then as soon as we saw that, we knew we had a play. And we knew we had the makings of the next play, because when you bring a stranger into a community, many things happen. And one of the things that has to happen is that there has to be an exchange of information, an exchange of worldviews, an exchange of cultures, and clash of cultures. So when the Jewish girl arrives and knocks on the door, she confronts a family in Sophiatown in one of those cottages that was perfectly beautifully built. And the reason that black people were allowed to live there was because the person who created it, Tobiansky, created the village, put it too close to the sewage works. So it was no longer available easily for whites to rent. So that's why there were blacks, Indians, colors, and some whites in that community. And it was this which made that community. And that community was a place of urgency and energy and urban ways of thinking, jazz and politics and church and gangsters. It was post-World War, and the influence of the war on lots of the thinking, American words and American ways came into the worlds. So we had the gangsters, we had the American gang, and we had other gangs like that. All of this was in the heady mix of this play. And so once we had that hook, in 1985, we started rehearsing. Well, we started making. We make the play by improvisation, by yoga, by games, and then by really quite deep social history research. And the play opened in February of 1986. Remember, there were 2 states of emergency in this period.
Yes.
And it was clear. It was an immediate smash hit. And we had our very first house was full. And we weren't sure why, but then we came to understand that actually they were all ex-Sophiatown dwellers, and they gave us a vote of confidence, which took the play to wonderful heights. And here we are, 40-something years later. It is a national set work. It is it has been playing in first my version in the, I suppose, when I was at the Market Theatre running the artistic program, and now Aubrey Sachabi's production. He's added a band. It's really an exciting project, and it's quite clear that the high school kids love it still. They love it, and they love it because it's constructed to convey information, but life and conflict and passion and love and destruction all in one big fat mix.
Yeah, you say that it's very
And
relevant.
so,
Yeah, you say that it's very relevant today as it was almost 40 years ago.
well, because we face many of the same questions. How do we overcome our vast divides? How do we learn about each other? How do we understand what is right and what is wrong in these very complicated times we live in? How do we understand which way we should make the future? The ANC was, of course, legal at that point, and it was active at the Freedom Square, and all of those ideas that were put forward, that were drawn from all over the country, began to create the Constitution. And our Constitution exists. It's powerful. It's wonderful, but it hasn't yet fully filtered down in deliverables, and that makes our crisis continue. So we are able to make certain kinds of, well, that play certainly was, I think we're connecting again. I'm not sure. Hello, are you there? Hi, connecting. Sorry, are you there again?
Yeah,
Hello?
sorry about that. Yeah, these things
No,
happen.
it might be me, it might be you. I was just saying,
But
so
yeah, please continue.
Freedom Square was the place where the bones of our Constitution were made. People were invited to send in all the things they wanted. And it's very straightforward. We want education. We want freedom of movement. We want the right to a multi-party democracy. We want the right to overcome our enormous political divides and social divides and so on. And so those issues, still remain with us. And so when those issues are discussed in the play, which they are, then they still resonate.
I just find it unbelievable how almost 40, 45 years ago, very little has changed, regardless of how fast technology has moved, how fast politics have changed, but the underlying conditions are still the same. Identity, land, I don't know, man. It gives me,
Identity,
it's just
land,
unbelievable.
love, interracial love. I mean, they all are, we live in an extraordinary country, and I do love it. I was born here 75 years ago. and it keeps throwing up wonderful and really brutal challenges for us all. And we've just had no water for about 2 weeks in Melville, where I live.
Yeah, that's
And I
that's
mean,
another problem.
and so, I'm very sad about aspects of what the ANC was able to do and not do in this last 30 years or so. Because if you think about the opportunities that they had, if they were able to think more clearly or stop the complications and the corruptions. But anyway, this is all in the play, of course. What will they get? Who will win? What will happen? When they get notice in the play that they're going to have to move, then the young man, Mingus, the gangster, suddenly attacks the Jewish girl and says, "Your fathers and your uncles have done this to us." And he threatens to kill her in the room. And it's not easy, and it's not soft. But on the other hand, they sing because we were influenced by Brecht in a way, although I'm told we don't make Brecht plays, we make very soft versions of them. Let's take that as a question. But we interrupt the narrative with extraordinary music and song that was created by Arthur Malepo and others in the group, or borrowed from the great tradition, that we had 20, 30, 50 years before us. So that's opening this Saturday, funny enough, at the Wits Theatre, and we've prepared to play for high schools, and we'll be talking very much to the high schools about coming. And Wits is complicated because it's an enclave in the middle of Braamfontein with 40,000 students and 8,000 staff. So it has to protect itself. So sometimes people think it's very difficult to get in. But if the buses with school kids arrive in Yale Road and enter the university, then the learners can walk across the campus, see where they're going to spend their time in the future, and come down to the southeast quarter where the Wits Theatre is and have a wonderful time. We're also doing some shows on weekends and evenings for the general public. Just go to Web Tickets and have a look.
Yeah, and I'll put all those details in the description box, But let's just take it a little bit back about your involvement at Wits Theatre. I know you're there, you're the director, trying to get it. I know we spoke some time ago, but there was a festival, if my memory serves me correctly, that you guys are setting up. How's that?
That's correct.
How's that been going?
Sorry.
How's your involvement at Wits Theatre been going for the past few years?
Well, let me start by saying I spent 20 years at Wits from 1983 teaching in the dramatic art department, now called theatre and performance. And then I went to the Market Theatre for 9 years. Then I went to AFTA for 10 years as a dean and then a developer of the writing syllabus and teaching writing. And then I was invited to speak at the 40th anniversary of the Wits Theatre. And all I did is talk about what I had done and what the Wits Theatre had done and what was possible if they had the imagination to think differently. And then I started a conversation with the head of the school.
Yeah, please continue.
Oh dear, connecting. Can you hear me still? Put a thumb. Can you? Yes. So I was invited to have a series of meetings with the head of the School of Arts, the Wits School of Arts, it's called, and Renee Smith. And we were trying to imagine what a director for such a venue might look like. And then I think between us, we decided that I could be a consulting director for a year with the task of trying to imagine, many layers of work that had to happen there. I'm now just about to complete my second year, and we're trying to work out whether I should continue or not. But broadly speaking, I had about 5 different deliverables that were very clear to me. One of them was to try and get access and parking, which I've only got a little bit of, but we can park now after hours at the Wits Theatre People can drive in at Station Street, and we've had some wonderful full house concerts. Carla Mombelli's Chapter 7 with Msaki and Kyle Shepard and others, Marcus Wyatt, was sold out. And so it does tell us that if people want to come to the theatre and watch something that is really lovely for them, they will come. One-offs are great. Sorry, we're struggling.
Yeah, these things happen, but please continue, man. We're still recording, and
Is
I
it
can
me,
still hear you.
perhaps? I'm not sure if it's me.
I'm not
I'm going for a
sure.
walk.
It could actually
Can
be
you hear
me
me?
as well. I can
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm trying to find a connection. Okay. Is it me or you? I think it might be me. So I've just moved.
I can't really tell. But yeah,
Okay.
if there's any of these glitches, I'll fix them up in a post production.
No problem. So we discussed the idea of a director, and then we worked out what the deliverables might be. And then I was invited to be a consulting director for a year, and I'm now at my end of my second year. And what I can say is that I have some big deliverables, and one of them was access and parking. I've only partially succeeded, but people can come in after hours and go to Station Street and park all around the theatre, and we've had some wonderful full houses, as I said. Carla Mombelli with Chapter 7, Saki and Kyle Shepard and Marcus Wyatt and others. And now we're trying to do a long run with Sophiatown and see how that works. So we've got about 3 weeks of performance with a bit of a gap in the middle. And the other big challenge I had was to sort out HR, which I did. There was a pending CCMA case, and I managed to solve it very unusually. The ideas I put on the table were accepted. And of course, my biggest ambition and passion is curating. I love to find projects that people want to watch. And that's my task. And that's what I did at the Market Theatre all those years ago and all those years. And I have a sort of set of ideas about what makes compelling theatre or compelling performance. And sometimes I win and sometimes I lose. What else am I trying to do? I established a cafe again in the theatre foyer after 5 years, I think, or more, with nothing there really. We've been running jazz, and we continue to run jazz starting tonight every Tuesday, with Carla Mombelli curating, and very, very talented senior students and guests. And that happens from 6 to 8 on a Tuesday, every Tuesday now for the next, say, 6 or 8 weeks. And then it's exam time, and then it's, June and all of those difficult periods. And so I'm sure I'm leaving out what else I'm supposed to do. I'm trying to find spaces for teaching and learning to take place, because at the moment they're using the venues to teach and learn. And that's partially good and partially not so good, because I can't always use the venue as I want. And I suppose you could say there's an academic theory about letting students into venues simulating the professional world, which is they come in, set up and play as they would in the professional world, and don't have weeks and weeks and weeks to sort of feel out the venues and get a little bit blasé about them, if you like. So those are the kinds of things I'm up to.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. A lot of it has got to do with access, and safety, of course. Yeah, and I'm taking care of the, like you say, with a bar, food court and bar and stuff like that. Taking care of people. Yeah, sounds like. And you also mentioned, like, you guys got that gig, that jazz thing running you say for the next 6 months, no? Every
not
Tuesday.
6 months. Well, no. Let's say 6 to 8 weeks, because June exams arrive. Yeah, 6 weeks. Every Tuesday for about 6 to 8 weeks, and that's Tuesdays from 6 to 8, and it's free. And you just make your way to the foyer as guests. I want to say one last thing. There's been this enormous energy being put into what is called the Wits Cultural Precinct, and I've been deeply involved with that as well, which is to take that corner with the Great Hall, the Wits theatres, the Wham, Wits Arts Museum, the Chris Seabrook Music Hall, and all the teaching and learning spaces on that corner, and link them together, both literally and conceptually, or conceptually and
Okay.
literally,
Okay.
and make a very beautiful visiting place, not only for teaching and learning, but for the public to find a new way of engaging with arts and culture in Braamfontein. And there is a strong ambition to link Wits to Braamfontein and renew Braamfontein. Braamfontein has become a very interesting place, actually. There are 3 or 4 jazz clubs now. There's 15,000 students, not only from Wits, living in that area.
Yeah,
So
all over.
we have the bones of an education precinct, and that's, I think, very exciting for me. And I love to try and imagine what that might look like and feel like.
That that can be potentially very exciting, and also the energy students bring is also very cool. It sort of has that bohemian kind of feel. Yeah, no, I get that. In fact, I spoke to some of the what's these guys behind the Braamfontein improvement. I got my
District.
naming wrong, but
No,
I spoke
you're
to
right.
some of those, making it more
Yeah, so we
accessible,
all
safely. It looks like you guys are all
so,
linked and you've got the same vision.
yeah, we're trying very hard to get on the same page. I mean, it also involves Josie My Josie. And so between the bid, Josie My Josie, the Wits Cultural Precinct, and the General University and its ambitions, I can say there's an amazing project that happened in Mexico, in one of the cities, smaller cities. This university was highly threatened by the gang wars that were really, and they are serious and very, very real. And the university had to debate, should it move completely? And it's very hard to move a whole university. Imagine moving
Yeah.
Wits to San. So what the then vice chancellor or seniors in the university did, they invested a fortune of money, which they found, to actually do the very opposite of what everybody expected, which was to open the place out completely, connect to all the bits around them, all the cultural and economic units around them. And they managed to succeed in creating a wonderful, clear, secure university. And that is
Interesting.
a wonderful test case of what's possible. I mean, it takes great money and great imagination to achieve such a thing.
Mm. So you're looking at making like almost the entire Braamfontein into like not one campus, but linking all of them together, and sort of like there's a flow of people like from the Joburg Theatre to the Wits Theatre, that type of thing.
That's that. Well, long ago there was talk of a cultural arc, which went Joburg Theatre, Wits Theatre, the Alexander, which then existed, and across the bridge to Newtown and the Market Theatre. That's still in the imagination somewhere. The west side of Wits, the west boundary, is very close to UJ, and there's
Yeah.
the Moribund Gasworks waiting for some genius to rejuvenate it all. So, it might take 30 years, and I will long be gone. But the wild and lateral thinking is starting to happen.
Mm. Yeah, that's good. That's good to know. That's good to know. The city of Joburg definitely needs that, and Gauteng in general. But let's just take it back real quick to the production, to the Sophiatown production. So, like we mentioned, it's 14th, the 11th to the 14th of April, and then the 5th to the 8th of May. And as you mentioned, that is a schools program. That's for the book was also as a set work for high schools. But we mentioned offline that there was quite a few copies of the book that got sold. Can you comment on that?
So on the 23rd, in fact, the production is running from this Saturday, which is the 11th, until the 24th or 25th of April. We're deciding whether we want to add a show on the 25th for the public. But on the 23rd, we're having what I've called a million party. And
Okay.
I am very proud to tell you that Wits University Press and Macmillan together, who created an educational copy of Sophiatown for the schools, over 10 years, they've sold 1 million copies. I think that's
That's
probably a record,
unbelievable.
or
That should
in the
be
top
close to
3 or 4. It is completely unbelievable. I'm almost, I'm flabbergasted. I'm slightly knocked over. I'm very proud, but
should be
it does feel unreal. I must say, it feels very unreal. But we're having a party to celebrate, and
for
then the
sure.
guests will then, hear some speakers, and then they'll see the displays of Wits University Press and Macmillan, and then watch the play. And so that's going to be on the 23rd of April. And then we play again in early May for the private schools who have been on holiday. So we're trying our best to meet the needs and wants of the schools. Aubrey Schabi at the State Theatre has long managed to secure very strong connections into Northwest and Limpopo province. Why? Because he's been engaging for some years with the education departments. Gauteng, we're all still feeling our way because there should be an ongoing relationship with the education departments and the creation of product and projects and productions and theatre and music and everything else for high schools or for schools in general as a matter of course. In some countries, students get a basket of tickets so they can go off to watch pretty much anything they want. And there shouldn't be a censorship, but students should be exposed to this from an early age.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
totally agree. Malcolm, let's just take it back there to like over 1 million copies sold, man. I have to talk a little bit more about that because off the top of my mind, yeah, you're probably right. It is probably, if not the biggest selling, I can't think of a single South African book, at least not at the top of my mind, that had that over 1 million copies sold. So just one question on that. Are you getting paid off all of that? I mean, you guys that put it together?
I wanted to say, I think John Carney, with Nothing But the Truth, may come close because it's also a national set work, as far as I know. But if it's not the top seller of any book, perhaps those mathematics set works that went for years and years and years, or science set works, I
But
don't know.
surely that's
But
not on the same. That's not on the
well,
same level.
yeah, we're in the top 10 or even the top 5. But hey, we're just so proud and so happy that a play that deliberately engages in what we could call the non-racial project has managed to ring in the way it has. I was thinking about theatre at the moment as I experience what's going on at Wits, and I think that there are two moments that are very important. Nothing But the Truth was established as a sort of post-apartheid play. But then the play called The Fall, about 10 years ago, during Fees Must Fall, I think establishes itself as a second phase. And it sets up another kind of a language or discourse around what theatre can be. And as I watch the students work at Wits at the moment, I think they're probably, and this is really speculative, but two movements. One is the social engagement movement, as it used to be, but with lots of complicated new social issues. But the other is a kind of mysticism, plays that deal with questions of the ancestors, plays that deal with questions of who we are and what our life is at the more spiritual level. And, I'm always interested in how these movements unfold over the years. And I think the other big topic, as we well know, is what has been named intersectionality and the way in which different strands of politics bump against each other. There's an ongoing raging debate about what you could call black consciousness or maybe Africanist thinking and non-racialism and so on. And none of them are very clear about what they want to achieve in the future, I don't think, except in some magical thinking way.
Interesting. Yeah, well, again, many congratulations on that. I mean, that is a huge, I it almost, 1 million copies sounds like such a huge number, and also speak
And
to
I
the
think
legacy. of the project of the play. I mean, that is something that can inspire generations after this. For the next 30 to 40 years, people can look up to that's been done before, and now that it's been done before, others can definitely follow.
I mean, it was really structured. It really was carefully structured with a lot of very clever people in the group to speak both very, very immediately to the social worlds that were very much immediate, but also to some rather bigger ideas around politics and the way we live and who we are and identity and what we want and how to make a life, and so on. So I guess all of those themes will not go away.
Mm. Yeah, like I say, the more things change, the more it stays the same. And identity issues around identity, land, race, that's not going away, even in this digital
All of
age.
those things.
In fact, sometimes I would like to argue that division might actually be getting wider, because now there's a digital force that nobody really has control over. That's busy programming people, influencing their politics, social views, cultural views, and so forth. And that's becoming quite it's definitely something that my generation's going to be dealing with for at least, well, indefinitely. But yeah,
I,
it's
I think
actually brings
I'm
up a lot of
thankful to
topics around
be.
AI and all these things. But we'll keep that for another for another recording. You wanted to say something?
The only thing I can say is I think I'm thankful that I'm 75 in a
Yeah,
couple of
yeah.
days.
I tell my
Why?
parents the
Because
same thing.
I don't know how the youngsters are going to cope with AI and its implications and what it really means, because none of us really know, and how it's going to change the world. I think of the great moment when they invented the printing press and what that did to the poor monks who used
Mm,
to do the calligraphy. Or if you think about the creation of the container ships, which killed the docks in New York and established the deep level docks in New Jersey. I mean, these are what they call in fancy language epistemic shifts, and the ones that are coming are absolutely seismic.
Yeah, I mean, one of the I try to talk about AI as often as I can on this platform and to raise the various issues. And the one consistent thing that I notice is that if it hasn't impacted people directly, they don't really care. And the second point I've realized, and this is the one I'm trying to champion the most, is that AI is being trained of all our talent, but nobody's getting paid for it. And there's very little talk about that, about some form of royalty type of setup that if they're going to use a sample some of your work, the person should get repaid. But there's very little talk about any of that thing, and that thing actually scares the hell out of me because as a visual artist, just a quick point, as a visual artist, there's guys I know personally that did their whole career, not their whole career, but the sizing part of their career is doing portraits, and that gig is taken away. Because you can just prompt your
So
AI quickly and just print out something, and then there you go, which is
I
a
wish that
concern
we
for our
could
industry.
find a way. I wish we could find a way to put AI to work to stop the wars.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I can or one thing I think it can also be good used for is in the courts. Because I mean judges can be bribed real easy. Um there's so many I know that AI has been used to fly aircrafts for years now. I mean it has so many good applications, but yet they decided to come steal from creatives. That's just and here we're sitting in 2026, and the biggest power in the world, in the States, I mean, is just the cesspool of all this folk and disgust, and they're using AI to further their propaganda. I mean, it can be used. I mean, if you remember the Arab Spring, that was like just less than 10 years ago. Okay, AI wasn't really a player in that, but social media was. So it was used there. There was very good things that could be used for. And now we fast forward to where we are today. Now you have to recheck every bit of news you have to recheck and recheck if it's
Uh,
real, real.
that's we live in shockingly complicated times.
Very, and like you say, like your generation, I mean, you're okay. You know, that's our problem. I mean, you can enjoy the last, the last few years and stuff like that, and just look at the you. I mean, that's my problem. Like I'm sitting here, which is also why, as an artist, I pivoted towards podcasting and work in the digital space, because I feel that space
Yeah.
is not controlled, and it's not regulated, and we can't. Silicon Valley can't be that powerful. Somebody has to put their foot down. Yeah, like I mentioned, I try to talk about that in every single episode. And trying to get word out there. And bit by bit, I'm getting information from from various artists, and it's interesting. And like I mentioned, there's a lot of, if it doesn't impact people directly, artists don't care. And I can't really blame them, because we're dealing with so many other stuff. If you mustn't worry about everything, you'll never make any art, and it's a waste of time. So complicated times.
I can tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing, talking about making new art. So when I was in Baltimore, where I had the privilege of spending a year, I made a play with a professor there and students called Icarus at the Border. And it was partially a story about the Greek myths, but also very much about contemporary issues of drugs and the border and collecting children across the border to bring them back and feed them to the Minotaur. And it was a wild piece of theater. And I'm now doing a version of it, but a one-person show with a singer to commentate. I'm writing with a young man called Angelo de Klerk, and the play is called The Breasts of Tiresias, and it will be in the Queer Festival at the Market Theatre in October. And it tells a story of a young man of 25 or so who, as he moves towards 50, contemplates his life, and he was born a girl. So it's a story about a trans man. But also, and that's Angelo's experience for real, and it's also about an obsession with Greek mythology in Johannesburg and which parts of it can we use and think about. It's an obsession with Tiresias, who, as we find out, changes sex every 7 years. So there we go. That's coming in October.
Definitely looking forward to previewing that one as well. October, it seems very far, but these days time moves so quickly. It will be before we know, winter's coming.
Yeah, and we have to write the play, finish the play, audition for the play, find the performers, all of that stuff.
That's a lot of energy for an elderly like yourself, Malcolm. So that's very impressive.
For an ancient. Well, I take my cue from the Greeks and their gods, because they seem to live forever and do anything they liked.
Well, certainly you're definitely following suit there. I mean, firstly, to be active in this, in coming from your generation in this age of AI and social media, already just a shift on like what platforms. I mean, we're communicating through your phone now, and this thing wasn't. I mean, the smartphone is not even 20 years old yet. It's about 15.
I know,
About
it's amazing.
years,
It's all amazing.
15 years. Yeah, no, technology has.
I mean, I have some.
Sorry, continue.
I have a mad theory. I have a mad theory, which is that live performance can and will survive because live performance is exactly that. It's live. At least at the moment. I know there are talks of making avatars that sing, and ancient singers from our 40s and 50s come back and perform for us in a way that we can hardly tell the difference. But at the moment, live theater has a chance.
I read just an interesting pros and points on that. I read a very interesting article. It could be a month or so ago. It was about this scientist that works with sound, was somewhere in Europe. But like what they were looking at is how sound as almost as a physical form. So if you're sitting in a for example, if you're watching Sophiatown, any musical production, sitting there and absorbing like the sound energy that hits you, it impacts you differently than if you hear it through a speaker, through somewhere. And even though there's this movement towards digitizing everything, and I'm also involved in that, so by the way, because I do think that accessibility is a big thing, especially in the arts. But it also it won't make personal experience. It won't render that obsolete at all. In fact, it could add to that. Where people take where musical shows now gets marketed differently, and people experience it differently, because in a few years now, there'll almost be a whole generation that has seen very little live performances because everything you're able to access, it will be through your phone. So as much as a little bit of bad, there's also a little bit of good that comes in with it. I guess as people who work in this field, we should just find that balance. And like what I'm doing, I'm collaborating more and more with app developers, with coders than I am with artists. I'm talking to artists on this platform every single week, but all my active work is with developers and coders. And the more and more I'm finding out of this world, of this coding and digital world, is that there's so much information and there's so much that can and can't be done. And I find that's actually quite relevant in 2026.
It is. It's a mind blast, all of it, and I've always resisted documenting the plays on a video system because I'm so passionately committed to the live theatre idea. But obviously, if you can do it as the Brits have done with the National Theatre, with 25 cameras or whatever, you can get the real experience. But I don't think we're yet ready. So I tend to resist the impulse to try and catch these things. But I do understand the need. I hope you didn't lose me there. I do understand the need. I do understand the need to document things for those who can't get access to the urban centres and the theatres. So I'm torn.
Yeah, and you have a whole generation that we brought up that won't, that get brought up in townhouses and complexes and duplexes, stuff like that. Maybe their movement has been restricted to the past 25 years. We're coming out of a hard lockdown. I mean, those with COVID-19, those high school kids, their view of the world is different to certainly to mine and to previous generations. So we have to adapt to these future generations. And I was born in 78. So my generation, we got to see, before Windows 95, before the iPhone, before AI, and we have to we can't let that divide get bigger and bigger. It has to the artist has to take their work and have to adapt it to that changing demographic. Because in 15 years from now, to do a play at the Market Theatre or somewhere else is going to be a lot more complicated and probably more expensive for the average artist. And those conversations, I think, is important to have.
Sure. I'm hoping that, that actually it will get cheaper and easier. But let's see. I mean, we have to find ways to keep the prices low, the artists paid, and the money that is available, and there's quite a lot of it in the government and so on, to be used properly and well. Very hard to do all of that.
I mean, if you just look at the price of fuel, that has now jumped to the roof. And I read a scary thing last night, potential more price hikes. That thing will impact will impact live shows still in 2026. No,
It's true. I mean,
we have to find a way around it.
I think we're in for a really rough time economically. I mean, there's no question. The recession may be worse, and we are very sensitive to that because of our terrible unemployment and the way in which money goes the wrong way and so on. So I just hope that some of those seniors in those faraway places have heart attacks and drop dead.
No, I'm with you on that one. Yeah, no, maybe they can get stuck on something in the throat or something. But
I don't know. Maybe they can get stuck in the subways without electricity and no way of getting out, and they slowly suffocate to death.
There we go. It sounds very humane.
I mean, this is wishful thinking, of course, of the profound sort.
Yeah, unfortunately, but these things are happening in real time. I've been doing this podcast since the hard lockdown, and I can tell you, from talking to artists every single week since then, that there's a seismic shift in the way artists understand the audience, how they're trying to communicate and reach out to their audience, and the art that they're making. For example, like, with Spotify and iTunes, that has changed the format of music, the length, the type of formulated, because these days pop stars don't make music for the audience. They make it for an algorithm. It is specifically produced to appeal to an algorithm. And I
Yeah.
I can sort of see those things merge with writers, with visual artists, and so forth. And as I mentioned, it's something we have to understand, which is something I'm trying to do, to understand it and to sort of position the arts in that thing, because I just find that we can't have somebody else in some government office somewhere, or in Silicon Valley, or in China somewhere, make those decisions for us. Doesn't work
Telling
for
us
me.
what to do.
You create a
I'm extremely
platform.
pleased that
Sorry, continue.
I'm going to say I am extremely pleased, and I can't remember her name. Is it Goliath? That the woman is making her way to the
Yeah,
biennial on her
yeah.
own steam, and I think the language is cocking a snoot. What a funny phrase! Putting a thumb up or a finger up to the minister who doesn't know how to use his money in a way that advances his own interests. He does make mistakes, and it's very sad because he had such promise when he started.
We can. I'm so, yeah, yeah. I can go on and about that. I think is an absolute disgusting what the government is doing. Um, their objective is clearly not art. Their art. They. What is it? What the one musician said, that they don't care about us, and that's true. But yeah, anyway, Professor Malcolm, I mean, we can go on and on about that. And it's just going to strike a chord, and it get me worked up, because artists complain about that every single week. You can listen to any of my previous
It's
episodes.
so
People are
sad, though,
complaining.
because it's so
It is
sad because
impacting us all.
I have to say it's very sad because there was promise and he was listening, and Ishmael Muhammad was talking to him, and they felt like there could be a movement of value for all of us, and then it went wrong. And I suppose on that note we should say here's to everything going right.
Yes, everything going right, man. And let's like what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to focus on the guys with a plan, guys with with plans that is trying to work on it, or using their limited resources in order to forward the thing. I think that's just as important as to used to complain about government, because in my experience we've never really had a good minister. Yeah, some did more than others, but anyway. I much prefer just to
Okay.
build our own platform and to talk to artists and entrepreneurs and how we're gonna work with this. My limited experience in dealing with government is that I don't have the personality for that. I don't have the patience. Maybe the patience more than anything else. And I don't have the
I
decorum to talk to these guys. I'm just too sensitive for that.
Yeah. So let's just say we'll remember the 1,000,000 copies, which happened in a way
Brilliant.
round the back door of government, even though it's a set work. And so, we are reliant on some of those impulses. Anyway, it's
Anyway,
always lovely to speak to you. Always
same
lovely
here.
to speak to you.
Same here. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay.
I will publish this
And
episode
you,
most probably in next week, but I will be tagging all the relevant people with that, and I'll let you know as soon as it get published. And once again, many, many, many congratulations on over 1,000,000 copies sold. Enjoy the celebrations around that. I will definitely be highlighting that part of the conversation because I think it's relevant. So once again, thank you very much for coming through, Malcolm. Enjoy the rest of your day.
thank you very much. It's always lovely to speak to you.
Take care, my brother. Thank you. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.